Hello again,
Hi,
and welcome to another natter. Well, our story continued, isn't it? We're going to we're going to be covering another aspect of our life because we actually really enjoyed doing the last one, and we're looking forward to doing this one as well. And before we go into it, this is purely our own experience and our own journey. We are not giving people advice or telling people how it should be done. We understand that it is, for many people, a very, very sensitive subject. But this is just our own personal take. And we also appreciate that everyone is different. So everyone that goes through this experience will have unique experiences and feelings and reactions depending on their own footsteps in life and their own experiences. Okay, so it's by no means this is how it should be done.
No.
But at the same time, we don't want it to be doom and gloom. It is going to be a video of hope as well. So, but from the start of it to now, has been quite a journey. So, we got married, as you know, in 2017, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I grew up, I heard about, you see, before we even go any further, for although in the word I've put the word infertility, I actually don't use that word infertility and infertile because, well, I'll explain later, because I believe that everyone is a creator. But I know that many people looking for videos on this subject will be putting infertility in, so that's why it's there. But I personally believe that everyone comes to this earth to create something. Okay, so it never, for all the way I'd known work people and friends, and you see it on telly and on social media, it's a weird thing, I'd never experienced it in my family, I don't think. People not having children or struggling to conceive or having issues to conceive. On the contrary, my mum's side, they've had many children.
Same with my family as well, yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, your dad, I'm like 100. your dad's mum was like 100 kids.
Yeah, a lot. I can't even count, to be honest.
So it never came into my mind. It never came into my mind that children wasn't on the radar. In fact, I went to a clairvoyant years ago, and she was like, oh, she was one of those. It was 30 minutes, 15 quid, and I'll tell you what you want to hear. And it was, you're the most, oh God, you're so fertile. I can see at least 4 pregnancies, twins. And I was like, oh my God, you've got to be careful. And there's this and there's, and I at the time must have been about late 20s, so I'm thinking 4 kids, twins and all of this. So it never came on my radar until we actually started to try.
Yeah.
And then it never happened. And it was strange. It was because you just don't think it's going to come into your life. And we kept trying and, you wait each month. But then I started to have these weird things with periods where I'd miss some, I'd get really heavy periods or really light periods. And it was really weird. And then I think it was 2019 when we started going for tests, because the Matrix says you go for tests. So we went for tests. And we got to a stage where I think we just did initial tests. And then I went back to the doctor because I saw a couple of things on my blood test, which was thyroid, etc., which I think most women are experiencing thyroid issues. Which has now been rectified. And she was like, okay, we're still not sure what it is. Would you like to go for IVF? And I just said, no. This is only my own personal feelings on it. And I just said no. And I remember her being so shocked. In fact, she put down a pen and she looked at me. And she was like, why? And I said, because my personal beliefs is if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And there is a reason that my body, or that we're not having a child. And it's something that we'll have to work through as a couple and also individually, I think, as well. And she was like, you could see, and she actually did say she'd never come across that. She'd never come across somebody saying no to IVF. And she said, well, okay. And actually she finished off by saying that she kind of respected me for that and she said, that's very brave, and wished me all the luck in the world. And we went off. And then I started with these weird sensations, like real weird mood swings. When we moved in here, I noticed it. And I was like, what is this? Like real weird mood, like real anger rushes. And I started with watery eyes. People that follow me on Claire Thackeray have had an issue for watery eyes for ages. And I was like, what is it? And it's only like the first 2 or 3 hours of a day, especially if I put makeup on. So I have to put makeup on early doors to get my eyes ready. And then I started with these spots on my chin, like these really hard spots. And I found out that they were the sign of perimenopause. And I was like, I'd never even heard of perimenopause.
No, I'd not heard of that. And it seems it's all over the place now. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it. You see, my mum had a hysterectomy. You see, I told you off for doing this about family. So she went straight into a menopause. And they just never discussed that kind of stuff in the 90s, did they?
No.
And I was like, perimenopause, what the hell's that? I've heard of menopause. And then I started to Google it and I was like, oh my God. So hair loss started as well. I've been going grey since I was 16. I've shared the reason for that on my other channel, Claire Thackeray, that I had a friend that was murdered as a teenager. And literally I can remember it being in the papers and looking in the mirror and these grey strands starting to come up. And so I am full head of grey, and I've even started to stop dyeing my hair now because it is what it is. But then again, that's my own personal choice. And I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with it all. You start watching the videos on social media, you start getting the books, getting the leaflets, and I actually found that every book I've read. Maybe there's a book I need to write.
I just had a thought then, because just go back to IVF, and if we had gone down that route, and we're going to start with the perimenopause, then it'd kind of been a waste of a treatment almost.
Yeah.
So it actually, in a good way, we actually freed that treatment up for somebody else who could have children.
Definitely.
So that in making that decision ourselves, it might be freed up that space, because it is quite an expensive treatment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And so hopefully it's freed up that for somebody else who could actually have children and really want to go down that route.
And that's young enough as well. And
Because I think it's harder, isn't it, as you get older?
See about me, I'm not crying, honest.
It does get harder, doesn't it? I'm assuming.
Yeah, because if you think about it, my body is getting ready to do something totally different, and then to start playing God with that body,
going it's a naturally kind of thing. Yeah. It is what it is.
I've never thought of it like that actually.
Yeah, it's a little good thing that somebody else could have a baby right now that might not have had a baby if we'd have gone and kind of potentially. I'm not saying it would have wasted a treatment, but it could have potentially wasted a treatment. Yeah. And somebody else maybe have got benefited from that. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Definitely.
Anyway, digress.
And I just found that all the books I was reading and all the videos I was watching, it was just fear mongering. And I read the Davina book, haven't I? The Menopause, and I am sorry, I got to a quarter of the way through that and I couldn't read anymore because I just thought I can't become this person. I was already starting to become this person, and I was having panic attacks and mood swings and starting with depression with it actually. And I think as well, had I not done what I do as a job as well, I would have gone down a very, very slippery slope. And it was that Davina book that did it for me at Christmas. I actually put it in the bin, and I've never binned a book in my life because I didn't want to pass it on. And I was just like, I can't be that person. But at the same time, we went onto a gluten-free diet without realising what gluten can affect. And it was just a couple of weeks ago I was listening to a Mel Robbins podcast, and she mentioned something about gluten and hormones, and I was like, what the hell? Because things have improved. It's not perfect, but things have drastically improved by cutting gluten out of my diet and
A disclaimer there, though. Everybody's different, aren't they? So
everyone's different.
It's not guaranteed that will work for you.
Everyone's different, but when you Google it, gluten plays havoc with hormones. And it's like, oh my God, how many women do you hear nowadays that are really struggling with these symptoms? And it could just be something as simple as, because we never heard grandparents talk. But I know they came from a different generation where they didn't talk about stuff like that.
It's difficult because that gluten diet is so ingrained in life that nobody'd ever even
Breads,
realise it, as it were.
pastries, batters, sauces, gravies. It is everywhere, actually. I'm surprised. And crisps. I've been shocked at just where it is, and they're all foods that we jump to for convenience.
And comfort eating as well. Yeah, definitely. It's quite a comfort food, isn't it? 'Cause it's like soft, fluffy, tasty. So it's yeah. But again, everything's got its own ups and downs, isn't it? You know what I mean? Every treatment, every vitamin pill you take, everything has got a good thing and a bad thing with it, isn't it? So it's really, really difficult, and you've got to really look at what's good for you, I think, and what's what makes you healthy. Because everybody's different. It's crazy. You know, we think we're all kind of alike, but everybody's got the different metabolic. I can't say it. Metabolism. I can't say it.
Metabolic rate.
Yeah, something like that. Yes. Sorry, I can't get my words out sometimes. Yeah. So everybody's different. So it's really difficult to offer advice and get advice if you went to a doctor or anything. So yeah, but it's good to experiment as well with your diet. That's what I've found. And try and eat new things and cut things out and see how that feels. It's definitely helped me. I'm currently trying to cut out milk, aren't I?
Yeah.
Cut out dairy. That's difficult. It's not easy.
Again, it's everywhere. Everything you drink.
Yeah.
Drinking, eating.
I bought a sandwich yesterday. I was halfway through eating it and I was thinking, this is a cheese sandwich. What am I doing? What am I doing? And it's just, go out for your lunch, get it, Unfortunately, with the gluten-free stuff, there was just literally one sandwich in the fridge to pick, and I picked it up. Fair enough, it's the gluten-free sandwich, and it's cheese. So, okay, back to square one. Try again tomorrow. But yeah, it's stuff like that's so difficult. But yeah, I've digressed. We'll go back to where we were.
And where I am now is. And one of the reasons why I didn't think it was wise to go down IVF for us was that I didn't want to go into it's your fault, it's my fault energy. Because I used to work near an IVF unit, and I saw people coming out of those doors, because sometimes you have to walk past it, and the devastation, and you could see it, and it was. So I think that's even helped me. And you do hear stories of people, it's as though they're taking on the burden.
It's sad, isn't it? Because it's, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, as it were, and it's like it's either going to work or it isn't. And this is quite an emotional experience to have children, and
I think
I'm almost glad we've not put ourselves in that situation, just because it's just such a big roller coaster that potentially could be on, and. Looking back for us, potentially with you starting with Peri Menopause, then it probably wouldn't have worked, and it would have been a roller coaster for nothing. I'm not saying it's not going to work for everybody. I don't know what the success rate is for IVF, but and for people that really want to have children, it's fantastic. But yeah, I've digressed again and I've lost my train of thought.
No, it's fine. And I think was it this year or last year? I think it was after Christmas, where something just clicked, and I was like, because you start to go down a rabbit hole of we're end up old and on our own, and because society and the matrix tells you do this, you get married at a certain age, you get a car at a certain age, you pass your driving test at a certain age, you get your first job, you do this, you do that, then you have your children, they go to school at a certain age, and they've got to pass certain exams at a certain time, and actually something shifted, and I've made real peace with it.
You've struggled for quite some time with it, though, haven't you?
Yeah, I have struggled with it for quite some time, and from 2017 up until this year, which is just winding into January now, well, February, and I guess one of the things that came to me was that for every woman that is craving a baby and in pain over not having a baby, there is also another woman out there that is craving peace. because obviously I speak to a lot of women in my work, and there are a lot of women at the minute that are now being very vulnerable with themselves and saying, you know what, it's too much. I'm realising I've got so much stuff to work through myself as a woman, and I've also got these little people, because, you know, it's like I take two weeks of the year as Claire's self-care. It's a lot to do with my work. And people, you know, I've said it blew them away when they found out that I had a week to myself of self-care, where I just rest, read, watch things on YouTube and just really wind down. And you can't do that when you've got children.
No, you can't. I mean, you know, it is what that is the choice you make when you have children. Or, you know, when children come along, it's what you have to do, because they need care, attention. And all the way through their life.
Yeah, all the way, even as adults.
Yeah.
And people think it gets easier once you get over each stage. But I actually wonder if it gets harder in some respects. Because even when they're adults, they go off and they're dating people you're not keen on, their friendships, the work, all of that.
Oh, so
it can
much
be a
worry,
constant.
Yeah.
It can be constant. So I've actually realised that there's so many positives to this. And it's taken a lot of work to actually realise that it has actually been a blessing. Because we can do as we want when we want. You know, I've filled my life with so much, the business, the YouTube channels, all the stuff that I do, the hobbies that I've got, and I feel at peace with it. I feel at peace with it.
It's good, isn't it? Because it's horses for courses, isn't it, though? Because, you know, there's people all around the world, and, you know, some people, the kids are the life and everything's the kids. Some people, the job's the life, but they still have kids, and they manage to fit that into their life. And they're not, you know, they don't their kids are out of their life. You know what I mean? They're not as family orientated, but they're more job orientated. And there's so many different variables in between. And we found this, it's kind of been forced on us, isn't it? I mean, we could have gone down different routes. Yeah.
Because we've thought about adoption and fostering, but I think even that, actually, when I thought about it, it was like, actually, I don't actually have the time. Really, because I think to adopt and foster is a big, because you're taking on a child that's already been abandoned in some way, shape or form. And that takes dedication, does that?
I think it does, yeah. And it all depends what you want out of life as well. And obviously, as time has gone on, we've kind of got used to just me and Claire. And then a baby coming along, that could have been a big upheaval, potentially, in our lives, that we got used to. I'm sure it happens to a lot of people that babies come along, and it can be difficult and hard, and I can't even empathise with that, because it's not happened to us. So yeah, it's difficult. But, you know, we're talking about what we feel in our situation, and we've got to take a positive of that. But we can't really empathise with people who, you know, have kids who wanted kids, have kids who didn't want kids.
It's a complex thing, and I think so much of it's coming up for people. I mean, I know I got to a stage this year where it's like, I've got two choices. I either lose myself and not be able to have any quality of life, and actually become old before my time, and give in to, or I can actually turn it around and actually use what I've got to spend the time on myself and as a couple, to invest in ourselves, to take that, to have that rest, because who knows what comes in future lifetimes.
But with your spiritual healing and your shamanic healing, you can help other people as well, and devote time into that.
And that's another thing, because guess what? A lot of the clients that come forward, because I remember when I went to training, and the shaman that trained me said, many of your clients will have problems that you've experienced. And I was like, really? And it's actually true. It's actually true. When I first qualified, many of my clients had come from NHS, in very similar, left NHS, and I was actually shocked at the amount of people that had left in similar circumstances. And it was like, this is getting more and more bizarre. And as I've gone through my life, and now you're getting women that are struggling, but you also get women that do have children that also struggle.
Yes.
Yeah. And also one of the things I've also realised is that on my dad's side, there were a couple of women, an auntie that struggled with being a mum. She really struggled, my dad's sister. And life became quite erratic for her because of that. And also my great-grandma that, well, she put her children in the workhouse for a man. And she would, but no judgment. And it's interesting because lately it's like, actually, that actually shows me that, and this again is another aspect for someone, that there isn't a lot of maternal instincts flowing to me. So that came to me recently. It's like, actually, they were the gift for me, because had I come from a line that super maternal women, surrounded by super maternal women, that can make it even harder for you when it's in your DNA to become a mum. But these women that actually are part of my bloodline, that actually became mums but struggled with it. It actually, again, it's how you alchemise that going forward. For them, it turned into a negative because they did what they did. But for me, it's about actually how can I take it and not push myself into having a child, adopting or IVF, and actually clear it.
We never know though, would we? Because they could have never wanted children, but at the times, people that was the matrix at the time. You marry, you have kids.
I think there's a lot out there that have been pushed into having children that really, if they were going to allow themselves to be vulnerable, would say actually it's been a struggle. And actually, I really, you women that and men that we were pushed into marriage as well. Look at the lives the time that we live now. I mean, I got married 35. You were 40. You go back through your records and you'll see your grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great, early 20s into their teens. They were pushed and they fell for the first person that came along because of the no sex before marriage thing. The war forced people to make that decision. Falling pregnant forced people to make that decision. So we live in very different times, and I think it's allowing more choice and more opportunity and availability to heal stuff within yourself and within your line.
And we're all living longer now as well, aren't we? And I can imagine the human condition was when you're young, the hormones to get you to procreate young, because people used to die young. You know what I mean? You go back to Henry VIII's times, people were dying when they were 30 and 40.
You were classed as old back then, in your 30s.
Yeah, so, so that's why we look back and think, God, they were marrying girls who were 12, 13, but they had to be, because otherwise they wouldn't been, they'd never seen the children growing up, you know what I mean, almost. So, but obviously as time's gone on, we're living longer, and, do we need teenage hormones to make us put ourselves in that position to procreate? We've got a decision now, we can decide, because we've got a longer life to live, to try and get past those hormones, which are difficult. I can imagine it's a very difficult situation to be in certain circumstances. And people are still having babies in those times when maybe they could wait because they've got a longer life to live, and to try and have life when they're young. But I can appreciate everyone's got different circumstances and how it happens. But yeah, and the hormones are the ones that are the difficult hurdle to pass, to get over. And if you can get over that, then maybe later in life you can have a better decision of whether you want to have children or not. But unfortunately, human condition, the way we are, the way the biological urges and all that kind of stuff. So you might have the biological clock when you're young, which is kind of an age-on thing to try and procreate early. So before, and procreate a lot, because medical science wasn't there, to now getting aged. You've still got your biological clock in the terms you probably. People are having kids older, aren't they? But you're still looking around 30, end of 40s years old, aren't you? When you start thinking maybe we're getting a bit too old to have children now. So you've got that time frame, haven't you? So.
But it's also thinking.
I'm rambling now, aren't I?
It's
Sorry.
also it's an answer, isn't it? It's also thinking about how old you'll be when they're 10. Like now, if I gave birth right now, I'd be 51.
I'd be 57.
Yeah, so you think
56.
of it like that.
Yeah.
And I remember I once went out with someone for a drink, and she was like, "Oh, she was talking about us having children." I said, "Well, the thing is," I went, because you're 5 years older than me. I said, again, and I said that. It doesn't matter. But I actually don't know. For us, I think it won't.
I don't know though. I've just had a thought.
Some people do it.
We had the guy, the roofer came to fix his roof. He was 74-year-old. He's climbing ladders.
Yeah.
And if he can do that, you could be a father at 74 still. Maybe not not a 10-year-old, but
some people are, aren't they?
Possibly, yeah.
I went to school with one at primary school, and well, actually, that probably was a different story. There was probably I'm not even going to go into, but it was an old man, and she was very young. And those kids got picked on though, because it was like that roofer picking them up.
Yeah.
And she were like in her 20s.
Right. Yes. So if you're older, then I've lost my train of thought now. Sorry.
Yeah. I think it's living with what you've got and being happy with what you've got, and finding a way to make it empower you. So if you become a parent as you're older, there's pluses to that as well.
Oh yeah, of course. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer in any of this, and you've just got to play the cards you dealt, as it were.
Yeah.
Claire knows more about them than me, and you have got to play those cards, and you've got to live your life as best you can, and that's all we're trying to do. And if it was the other way around and we'd had kids, if we had 4 or 5 kids or whatever, like your psychic said, we'd have had to live with that as well. We'd have to deal with that, and we'd have to know and have a good life with it. And not try and have negative thoughts on it.
Yeah.
You've got to try and turn everything to a positive as best you can. And the good thing now is we don't have children, so we can go on a few more holidays. We've got a little bit more spare cash, because again, we've not done it, but I can imagine raising children's a very expensive thing.
I think even if you try to do it, I think as well, that's another thing that's come up is, I think if you try and do it as humbly as you can, they're going to go to school and they're going to see something different.
Yeah, because I know when I was a kid, we had quite humble, even though my dad eventually was a manager at the food factory he worked at. He still on a massive wage, but as we were growing up, we had quite humble. And I never had Nike trainers, for example, and Adidas. I'm only just starting to get the brands on me now, and I'm 46 years old. I'm reaping the benefits of working hard and having a good life. I think maybe people think that's quite sad of me, that I like the Adidas clothes and things, but I used to, we'd used to go for the cheaper sports gear and cheaper sports trainers, and other kids in school were having their, the top spec Nikes and Adidas's and stuff like that, and I used to ask my dad, can I have them? He said, nah, you can't have them, they're too expensive. Not paying 80 quid for a pair of trainers that you're going to wreck, which I would have done, I'd have wrecked them as much as I wrecked the £20 trainers or whatever they were that we bought, and just as fast.
Yeah. One of the things that's come up recently for me was the fact that I actually have certain issues around medical procedures, and it actually came to me by some self-healing I did, and it was the fact that, Claire, be honest with yourself, we make a laugh about this, but I am sick phobic. I'm better than I used to be, but if I'm going to vomit, which thank God, touch wood, doesn't happen unless I've got a bug, and thank God, touch wood, that doesn't happen often, I can actually become really anxious. And actually that it came up in healing session. Just step back from yourself a minute, Claire. Imagine having to throw up every day, or that feeling of being sick, having to deal with those panic attacks. Imagine not being able to go where you want to go because of the fear of being sick. Also as well, I had to really sit with it, but actually the thought of going through birth and the stories that you hear, being torn and stitching and caesarean sections, are all actually my worst nightmares, and hospitals. So actually, the universe and
Morning
my
sickness.
body,
Yeah.
is actually knows me better than I know myself, and the higher self knows me better than I know myself. And actually, it was when I sat with that, and I was like, God, yeah, because I actually think I'd struggle because there was a point was it around about the coronation where I'd not had a period because my periods are starting to slow down, and I was like, oh God. And I actually got to a point where I thought, actually, I'm quite concerned if I am, because I'd started to get to a better equilibrium, and I'd started to put my focus into other areas, and it was like, to actually be pregnant would be...
It's almost like a couple of years ago you'd have been getting quite excited and you'd be going and getting tests and stuff just to see if you had fallen on, and this time it was like, oh, okay, you know, this is a part of my life where it's like, maybe for the first time ever I don't want children, and we've just about come to peace with it, and then it's like, what are we going to do here then? Because we've made the change in his life as well, hadn't we?
Left the big house.
We made the financial decision to earn less money and to potentially then bring a child into that life when we'd kind of given up some of the money. It would have been really difficult. We'd have had to cope with it, obviously, but it's, at the end of the day, it benefited us that you earned. I don't know.
Because don't judge me for this, but I was actually sat there thinking, well, am I going to do YouTube videos with a baby crying in the background? But I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think so many times, so many women have said this, like we call the power women, the career women, where they've said they do, and sometimes they've been blasted down for that. It's like, you're meant to, you're a female, you're not meant to say. But actually, if only other people had those conversations and said, is it selfish to have those views, or is it selfish to have those views but not to still go on with it? To say, actually, I'm not a selfish person. Not even I'm doing it there. Or somebody says that actually I've not got time for children. It's like, oh, you've not got time for children. It's almost like we become offended of it. But actually, if only more people said, actually, I'd make a rubbish dad. I've got lots of inner child stuff. I've got this, I've got that going. I'm career driven. I've not got the time. But you see so many people saying, oh God, come on then. And that's how so many people, I think, can find themselves unhappy. I'll bring my dad into it. I used to get offended at this, but he openly says he hated taking us to school. It is what it is. But I remember thinking, God, what a thing to say to... But he hated the school run. He hated it. But actually, well done him for actually saying that and actually admitting that he hated it. Because when he had that conversation with me, it was like, again, it's not from that line that it kind of it helps you on your journey, because you think, well, if he hated it, there's a chance. And I actually, in the morning, I've said to you, when we're sat here having our breakfast and we look out and you see them off to school, and it's like, God. Then at a certain time coming back, and I'm like, I'll be sat here reading, or I'll be sat here getting ready for a video, or I'll be sat watching YouTube, or I'll be doing something else, and it's like, actually, I'm glad I'm here, wrapped up warm, and I'm not into that, because a lot of people are struggling.
Yeah, it's not an easy...
Mental health at the minute for men and women is going through the roof.
It's not easy bringing up children. It's not easy at all. It's a very, very hard thing to do. Very, very fulfilling. Very loving, lifelong commitment, and it is for some people and it isn't for everybody. And at the end of the day, we've got to the point of our life where we've come to terms that A, we're not going to have children, and B, that we're at peace that we're not having children. Very difficult though. And I'm sure because everybody's different and in a different point in their life, it's very difficult for everybody to empathise with each other on this. Because some people have children who wanted them, some people have children who didn't want them, some people haven't got children who desperately want them, some people don't have children who weren't that bothered. So where do you start? You know what I mean? Like we said right at the beginning of the video, everybody's different. Everybody reacts differently to everything. food, medicine, life, emotions. So, I think, what did Forrest Gump say? Life's like a box of chocolates.
You never know which one you're going to get.
You never know which one you're going to get, unless you look at the instructions. But there's no instructions in life, unfortunately.
There's pluses and minuses to it all, isn't there? And I think as well that one of the things that also came through during healing was that as you're sat here upset that you've not had children, there's women out there now sat in cancer wards, knowing full well their child's going to die. I was reminded of my friend's mum who lost one daughter in a council flat and was tortured to death and died and was buried in a shallow grave. And the other daughter, I'm not sure of the death, but she became addicted to drugs.
Oh, we've just seen on the news.
And that's two daughters gone.
What was his name? Michael Irvin. What's his name?
Oh, I can't remember. He used to do Homes and the Emma, was it?
Or
Escape to the Country.
Escape to the Country. I've forgotten his first name.
Johnny. Was it?
Irvin or something like that.
I can't remember.
Rude. Always came across as a lovely bloke on the telly, didn't he? And I think he's just died of cancer.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's it's awful.
Yeah.
Apollo Creed's just died.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know his real name.
Yeah.
But yeah, Apollo Creed's just died. People are dying all the time. People have got diseases.
Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it? It's life is so hard. Emotions are so hard.
Yeah.
What takes priority over one thing? Death, birth, life.
But also as well, I think the message that came to me was about the fact that mums and dads, just because you have a child doesn't mean to say it's going to be happy ever after. Again, there are so many mums now that are losing children because of children going off or dying or becoming ill or falling into addiction, or there's women out there now that are just actually on the brink because of finances, because of mental health, because of fears of the world war, pandemic, all of that drama. They're living on the edge. They're living on the edge, and this is only what's worked for me, but I know that it's actually helped me so much to be able to think, actually, God, I'd hate to find myself in a situation like my friend's mum did, where that is unbelievable. You can't even compute that. That isn't even just your child dying. And there's more of those women out there that go through that.
Oh yeah.
And I think from a man's perspective, what do you think from a man's perspective?
What are we looking at now?
What we're looking at now, you've lost me. I was about to say, well...
There's your man's perspective there, right?
I know what... But what would you say about other men? Say if men are watching this now that, and maybe with women that don't have or can't have children, or they can't have children, or... Is it different for men, do you think, or...?
I don't think so, no. I mean, we're all emotional beings. We all want what we want, and I'm sure there's men out there who just love to be fathers, and it's one of the most important things in their life. And to not be able to be a father, it can be. I'm sure it's really heart-wrenching, and I'm sure there's men out there who don't want to be fathers, and that they become fathers, and they can either cope with it or they can't cope with it, and it's so difficult. There's so many different avenues, isn't there? Like I said, everybody's different, and it's difficult for me to even compute it all the different scenarios that could happen. But looking at my own personal experiences and living through my life through my eyes, and meeting Claire and knowing that she really wanted to have children, and we trying and went through the tests and all that just to work out why. That's what people ask. Why is this not happening? Why is this happening to us? It's such a difficult time, and then you sit back and say, right, we'll just keep trying and see, let nature take its course almost, and try and. I think in the end we decided to leave it to fate, didn't we? Not push that too far, and just say, right, no, if it's meant to be, it is meant to be, and we're going to have to live with that. And that's what we've kind of have.
Yeah.
And we seem to have. I'm not an unhappy person, I don't think.
Because I remember when I met you, actually, and one of the wives of one of your friends says that you weren't that interested in having children anyway.
It's a difficult one, though.
Because for some men they are desperate, but then...
It's my previous partner, she wasn't bothered about children at all. So it's kind of almost, you get into that, well, this isn't going to happen. So it's kind of, you get into that mentality. So obviously when I met Claire and it was a complete turnaround, I almost had come to terms with it, that I wasn't going to have children. And I'd come to terms with the fact that I wasn't going to be a dad. Yeah. And I was going to probably live my life through nephews, nieces, friends, kids, and those kind of things. And then obviously I met Claire, and it's like, oh, Claire would really like to have children. This is something I've got to really consider. And I'd got to the point where it's okay. Claire really wants to have children. Then I'd like to be a dad. Let's try this. And then obviously it flip-flopped back. Yeah. When we thought we couldn't. And it was probably easier for me because of where I was earlier in my life that I come to terms with not having kids, that it was easier to reconcile the fact that this isn't going to happen now. Yeah. And I think it was harder for Claire because it's something that she'd always wanted. Yeah. It was a constant in her life. So it was difficult to go, actually, no, you're not doing that.
And I think as well, because this is something that we've spoken about, because so many women have children, obviously, and especially if you're in the workplace, and they go on to part-time hours, they have maternity leave, they get a lot of perks in a lot of workplaces. But if you're a woman that's never had a child, that can be really difficult. I remember having a conversation with someone years ago that wanted to go part-time. She'd never had children, never got married. And I was like, well, why are you going part-time? And she said, the thing is, Claire, all my colleagues that have had children have all gone part-time. And I'll never get that chance as a woman to have that part-time. And it's actually true, isn't it? So you have to then maybe face the prospect of working full-time, always having to take, because I know in my old workspace, in a lot of cases, if you were single without children, you didn't get your annual leaves a lot of the time. I've said this before. It's why I'm rigid now with annual leave. I take all Christmas off and stuff like that. And I think, what am I trying to say here? That can be a difficult thing when you think, I'm going to be here 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, full time. And I'm not saying you have children and you're at home and life's easy. I'm not saying that. But it's an opportunity for you to...
Well, it's mentality as well, isn't it? I mean, you can have children and you can devote your time and effort to your children and become your world. Yeah. And then if you don't have that, suddenly, I think, again, that maternal instinct or life or emotion, you've got to clutch onto something. And a lot of people, it's a job. Yeah. And so they become the best, whatever it is they're doing. Yeah. It's an ability. But that takes a bit of that life away as well. Yeah. And they lose a bit of themselves in their family life or home life because they're spending all the time at work. And we've managed to find that balance, I think, which is good for us. Again, if your job's your life, go on, get on with it, love it. If that's how you feel, if that's how you get your, if that's what makes you happy, then that's brilliant. But if you're doing it just for the sake of doing it, then maybe you need to consider that you want to do something that makes you happy. I think that's the main thing. Obviously, people have got financial reasons why they do certain things. But if you get to that position where finance isn't that important, that you can manage to muddle across. Because I've got to a certain plateau in my career where I could very easily, really easily devote myself to my job and progress up the ladder. but I've decided I don't want to do that. I don't want to get into that matrix, as it were, which it is in my job, isn't it? And I don't want to be in charge of those people. I just want to be the best of what I do right now, and earn what I earn, and it's enough money for us with what Claire brings in through her channel now and her business. So that's what makes me happy. And I could have very easily gone, right, no, I want to do this, and I could get properly involved in that. But I think I'd neglect Claire a little bit, and I think that would be a bit selfish in doing that, because we haven't got children and we need each other.
Yeah. It's true though, isn't it?
It is. And to be honest with you, I don't want the hassle of the extra, the extra authority, or the extra, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibilities that come with these higher roles in the organisation I work. And I'm happy with, I've got enough stresses now, haven't I? Without going up a level. So, and we can devote time to ourselves. And Claire can put in the hours that she needs to put in, and I put in the hours. I don't really work any extra than I need to now, do I? Not like in my old job where I was doing 50, 60-hour weeks.
And I think with what I was saying, if you're a woman and you're not going to have children, for either choice or because not being able to, I think it's important actually, if you want to go part-time and you can afford to even if it's just today, and you go, and you may think, well, why? Because I've not got children. Your boss may say, well, because there are some bosses like that. They'll say, well, you've not got children, why are you going to knock a day? But that day can be your day, because you still need to have time for you. And that can be a day that you do go and create something. It could be a hobby day. It could be where you do gymming, swimming, walking, reading, whatever it is, a course. So you can, and I think I would have done that. Even now, I make sure that I bring that into my working pattern, that I'm not slogging it all the time, because, and this comes down to what I said at the beginning of the video about infertility. For all I'm going to put it in the title, I actually don't use it.
Question mark up after it, as if to say.
Because the truth is, when you put that title on your infertility, you're actually straight away stopping yourself as a creator. Everyone, and this was a shaman that started me on this journey, when she said to me, you may not have a child, but you're going to be mothering something else. And I was like, because I originally thought, oh, does she mean I'm going to be adopting or creating? There are so many things we can create. Hobbies, lifestyles, rebirthing yourself, businesses, rebirthing relationships. Every day you wake up and you rebirth yourself. So never think just because you're infertile, you're actually not. Because some people are meant to create that. Some people are meant to create that. And I think that frees you when you realise, right, okay, so I'm not meant to create that. What else am I meant to create? Because straight away the world opens up. Whoa, so that means I've got time to devote to that. That means I actually can spend the time healing myself, recreating myself, rebirthing myself, rebirthing us as a relationship. And so always remember that. Because like it's in the tarot, the Empress card isn't just about, even though she's always depicted as pregnant, like she is, but actually it goes much deeper than that. It's the card of creation and manifestation.
And remember, just because it's become a positive in our life, it doesn't mean it hasn't been hard. It doesn't mean we haven't had a bit of an emotional roller coaster with it. We've had loads of ups and downs, arguments. We do fall out, and it is it has been hard, and it's not an easy experience to go through. Whatever way you go through it, whether you have children or don't have children. Whether you want children or you don't want children, it isn't easy. So it has become. We've turned it on its head. Eventually, it's took a long time. It took us a period of time to change his life, change the way we live, and in doing that, we've managed to turn around a positive in that. and we've freed us. We've created a freedom within ourselves. It's been enforced freedom, but we've taken it as a positive that we are now free from. I was going to call it a burden, but it's not a burden, is it? You know what I mean? But you know what I mean. It's.
But again, no, because actually, in some cases, there can be a burden, and this is about also as well part of your healing journey as a human being is being honest with yourself. That's how we end up in so many issues because we try and say the right thing or we try and have the right feelings. If you just said, actually, I don't want children because for me they'll be a burden. What's wrong with that?
It's probably not. I mean, you know, there's negatives with every situation, isn't there? There's obviously with not having children, negatives for us is we're just going to grow old together, and that's it. You know, once we get old, hopefully we've got each other. But after that, we haven't got anything else other than friends, family, nieces, nephews, those kind of things. So that's a difficult thing to reconcile. But on the other hand, having children, you've got that love, you've got that. Well, hopefully you've got that love because there's plenty of people where they have falling outs, and and that the people are just left just as lonely with children in their old age as we could potentially be. But that's happened in a more of a we've got time to reconcile with it and move on with our lives. But some people, falling outs can make it devastating for people and make it even more lonely. Obviously, there's the wonderful experience of family and what I think, 80-90% of people probably have, where it's wonderful experience. What everybody dreams of, having kids and family. You should probably correct me if you're wrong. It's probably not all wonderful. It's not all sunflowers and watermelons, whatever the saying is. But then obviously there's also the financial burden of it all, because I don't know what they say. Is it £100,000 it costs to raise a kid, something like that? Maybe it costs a lot more. You tell me. And maybe it costs a lot more than that nowadays. It's the emotional burden, the worry. The world's a mad place for bringing up children. I mean,
we know civilization is ended now as we know it. We know that all the establishments are dropping, schools, medical, all of that. It's all going in eternity. It's all changing and shifting.
It's a hard world out there. So to bring in a child, there's that worry as well on top of that. So you've got that seesaw of emotions, really. I'm sure. I'm only guessing. You tell me. I've never been a father, so I never will. I don't think. Yeah.
But also as well, children choose to come down into a certain time, and they choose you as a parent. So if you're watching this and you're a parent and you feel like you've really messed it up, or you feel like you're just not getting it right, remember that your child chose you for a reason. They didn't choose Debbie next door. That's always an Instagram perfect. They chose you. You choose your parents. You choose your family. You choose the world in which you're going to be born into.
Yeah, and use that maybe as a positive, that there's always that chance that if you're ever falling out, is it really that bad? Can you move on and reconcile that? Yeah. I don't know. Like I say, family dynamics. I only know that from being a child myself. I could never look at it as a parent. Only what I see on the telly box, in books, from experience from friends and family. I'm sure that experience is completely different in real life when you've actually got kids of your own. So.
And there's gifts in all of it, isn't it? There's gifts in having children, but I also think there's gifts in not having children. And I think it's being able to find those gifts.
And I think the way the world is going, there's going to be more and more people not having children. It's obviously some kind of biological change that people have as we're getting further and further into the 21st century. I'm not going to say the 22nd century, thank God. This seems to be this biological change. Whether this is a normal thing, I don't know. Whether this is just, I don't know, people's emotional state, or because people are living longer and they don't have to have as many children, because back in the 1900s the people had more children because there's a chance that a lot of your children would die because of all the diseases and things, and life expectancy and things like that. We don't have those problems anymore. Child life expectancy is a lot higher nowadays. Children still die, obviously, but the percentage is a lot lower than it used to be. So that's probably one of the main reasons why people are having less and less children. But then we find that more and more people are becoming, as you said, potentially infertile.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
And obviously, as we've got more equal with women and men, women have become more career orientated, and good on them. If that's what you want to do, live your life in that way, that's fine. Whatever makes you happy. I think that's the real thing of this. You've got to live your life and try and turn what you've got, whatever chocolate you've picked out of that box, turn that chocolate into a positive and really enjoy it.
And embrace it for what it is.
Yeah. And try not to have the negative thoughts of what if this, what if that, because you can't change it at the end of the day. You can't get a magic wand out and suddenly have children if you wanted children, if you've not had children. You can have regrets. You can certainly have regrets. But I think for us, we've moved on. We've got a little life together, which is a nice little happy life. And we've carried on, and knowing that children aren't going to be part of that. We've got 2 little nieces that we see a lot, and a little nephew now. Yeah. So we, I'm not saying we're going to live through those, because we live
chips off the old block.
But it gives us that little bit of gives us a little mothering instinct, as it were, fatherly instinct now and again when we see them. So that's all good. We're hopefully not going to live in regret. Things change, but I think we've turned that corner now.
Yeah, I think life's too precious for regrets, because I think even if you've done something that you regret, I think actually it's not a regret, it's a teaching moment. And life is too short, I think, for regrets.
It is, yeah. We've got plenty of things to do. We've got Claire's business to make bigger, stronger, faster.
Yeah, because there's plans I've got for that.
We've got
for the future.
We've got 3 YouTube channels now. We can pass our wisdom, not so wisdom.
Yeah.
Have a laugh, have not a laugh. Talk about sensitive things, non-sensitive things. Talk about the telly. Talk about books.
Yeah.
And not live life through YouTube. Because that would be mental, but we can share our life through YouTube, and we can still do nice things.
That would be mental. No, but you don't want I think YouTube it brings a lot of. There's YouTube. I used to think of YouTube before I started on it, where you think, God, there's some crazy YouTube videos out there and some crazy creators, but then there's a whole host of from all different books, spirituality, lifestyle that are absolutely bringing some amazing healing to the table for people and peace.
Well, it's not just that. You want to put a windscreen wiper blade on your car now. You can get a YouTube video where somebody shows you how to do it. You know what I mean? I did that the other way. I had no idea how to put a windscreen wiper blade, because it was a different car, different. I've put them on in the past, but it was a completely different way of putting it on. I had no clue. And I was like, I don't want to pay Halfords £10 to put this on, or whatever it costs. I want to do it myself. And it took me a bit longer, didn't it? But I eventually got them on, and they're fine. So yeah, YouTube's really good. But like I said, we're not going to live our life with it, but we're going to share our life with it. I think that's the word with it. We're looking for here. We've got we've got more things planned, haven't we?
Well, there's so much. Like I say, now that I've really stepped into my true creative, it's flowing. And people my other channel, Claire Thackeray, reached 14k the other day, and people are saying, all of a sudden your videos have started to really change. And that's because I've embraced my creativity. I was starting to get stuck because I was baby, perimenopause, and losing myself in that. But since Christmas, something's shifted. It's like, no. And it frees you.
You have been a lot brighter over the last month.
Yeah.
Because Claire was really struggling with the perimenopause, I've got to say. Mood swings and all the things that come along with that. Hopefully some men out there will be able to empathise with me. Yeah, but Claire's, we've sat down, we've talked about it. Which is a really important thing to do. I think if Claire went to sat down and talked to me about it and what it and I did a Google search and I'd look into it myself, we could have some really, really bad arguments. I know. And over nothing. You know what I mean? Because it's Claire's emotional state, it's hormones that are coming through. It's not really against us personally. It's just, you can't control those emotions. And sometimes it's difficult to process as a man what Claire's going through. So sometimes I've got to take that step back and and realise that Claire's going through a moment, as it were.
Yeah. And I think as well, men and women need to research hormone stages for everyone, for teenagers, for pregnancy, for post-pregnancy, for perimenopause, for menopause, and really stop pushing it under the carpet. Just because you're a man not thinking, I don't need to read that, she'll read that and she'll guide the kids through it. Because I think knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And it's not something to run away from and be ashamed of. Like women that have postnatal depression are ashamed. And they shouldn't be ashamed.
No.
I reckon I could have gone down that route.
Yeah, you could have been, and it's not to be ashamed of. It's your body's biological history. It's well, not its history. It's future. It's what happens, and we've got to understand that. And I feel really fortunate that we've been able to sit down and talk about it, and so I now understand it, and I know sometimes where Claire's coming from when she has a go at me for not washing something up or.
Eating loudly. I had a problem with that before, but actually it gets worse. It actually gets worse in perimenopause. Eating sounds, drinking sounds, tips you over. And I was worse before. Crunching. But I was just thinking about something's coming through about postnatal depression. When you actually think about it, it's actually quite normal, I think. Let's just take this, let's take it away from fluff and baby showers and pink and blue and all of that and Instagram pictures, but your body is going through a transition like never before that is going to impact every corner of your life, that is going to bring so much about your own vulnerabilities, all of your stuff, your traumas, your cracks, your scars. It's actually quite, I think, is it normal? To actually, is it normal to have the baby blues? It actually is.
I'm sure it probably is.
Because there's I'm saying this because there's so many women that don't want to talk about it, or that are offended by it, or that women can be offended by it.
No, but when you think about
feel insecure about it, and as though they're going to be judged, and actually, it's.
Well, it's like anything, and I'm sure the birth process, you'd be living on adrenaline, and that I used to work on adrenaline,
and the tiredness as well.
And that's really difficult to constantly work on adrenaline, and that process of childbirth, I can imagine, could take it can take a day, hours.
2 days.
2 days, it can take hours. So imagine the amount of adrenaline you've put in your system, up and down, up and down, up and down. And then after that, You know, it's a come down, isn't it?
Do you know, I was once reading, I'm sure it was Paddy Doherty's book. What thing about gypsies? I didn't realise that. It was when Paddy had been, was it Big Brother he went in? And I'm sure he did a book. And I read it. And
Right over my head.
he actually said, and I know this isn't a belief system for everyone, but for him, as a gypsy man, he was talking about his wife having children, and he says that gypsy male back then, for his heritage, weren't allowed in the delivery room. And I'm thinking, and he actually explained it, and I thought, actually, he's quite right. He said, because women can be put under too much pressure when their man's there. Their legs open, they're bleeding, sometimes miss themselves. It's not a nice sight. And he also said it allows them to just relax with the medical folk and the women folk around them. And it stops also the men that are not medically trained, they're not tactful in a lot of cases, they're hopeless to actually see what's going on, can actually be. And I thought, actually, God, he's onto something there.
Potentially, yeah.
He really is, that it allows a woman the space to have her moments without, you know, and I thought, God, yeah.
No, again, everybody reacts differently to different things that happens in their life. Some women can have children and they're off back to work next day, aren't they? You know what I mean? Some
Well,
women
they're working from the bed as they're giving birth and stuff. You hear all kinds of...
Oh yeah, all sorts. It is literally horses for courses, isn't it? And some people can affect them really, really badly. And like emotionals and hormones can affect people all different. Yeah. And I've just got to be glad that I don't know if you're turning a corner or you're dealing with it better.
I think I'm turning a corner because I don't want it to be the breaking of me.
No.
I had a taster of what it could be like, and I thought, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person that constantly talks about Peri Menopause. I don't want to be that person that nobody dares say they're pregnant. I don't want to be that person that can't walk past a baby or that can't. I don't want to be that person. I don't want that. I've gone down dark routes before in the past, and it just makes, for me, because it took me a long time to settle down and meet you. You can become bitter and twisted when somebody gets engaged. You can become really bitter and twisted, and I did at times become bitter and twisted, especially when you start seeing other people close to you settling down. I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and I did.
Me too. Yeah. I went last out of my group of friends to get married,
and I want to do it differently. And I think, you know, wrapping this video up, it's about whatever you've been given in life, alchemising it and turning it into, and I'm not being all happy clappy woo woo, but it's, you've got a choice. It either makes you or it breaks you, and whatever it is your biggest teacher.
And you know, and the biggest thing is, please let it make you. I want to put that energy out there. I want everybody to go out there and to make them. Yeah. We don't want to break energy. And
if you don't know how to let it make you, if you're in the middle of it, then go to see people that can help you. But when you do that, be open to hearing the truth. Because actually, that's a big part of your healing, is hearing things you don't want to hear about yourself. And being honest with all facets of your personality and your heritage. And actually, that's how you free yourself as well going forward.
Yeah, definitely.
And take your time with it. It's not a rush. It's taking your time with it. Read the right material, because there is a lot, and it's on social media at the minute, where you'll go on and go 10 symptoms of the perimenopause, and these are women that are doing that, and they're being dramatic, and you're watching it, and you can feel yourself getting. You know, I'm not talking about people that blow unicorns up your bum. You don't want that neither, but you don't want fear. You don't need somebody, and that's anything. If you're pregnant now, I'm sure you can go online and you'll get all the horror stories. Or it's being mindful of where you get your teachers from, your mentors from, your inspirationals, people, whatever, because there's a mixed bag out there at the minute, and some of it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
And be you. Walk your path.
Yeah, you've got to walk your path and try and find that happiness out of life, which hopefully we have.
Yeah, yes, we have.
Hopefully we've got there.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap that one up.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Do you want to share you can feel free to share your experiences in the comments.
Yep.
And thank you for watching. We're still trying to decide on future natters.
Give us some ideas of some natters.
Future natters, future things you'd like us to talk about. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. The sun's blaring here, isn't it? I keep seeing it to the camera.
Now, isn't it?
And we will catch you in the next one. Like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
So long.